Hey now, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Simple Jack from Nation 30, and I really appreciate you stopping by. Before we kick things off, let me introduce the team. First, we have one of the smartest players in the game from Nation 285, Lumbergh. Next, we have NikkiNikki from Nation 52 and Kitchy from Nation 425. Not only are these two knowledgeable, they're also amongst the most talented content creators for Age of Origins. Finally, from Nation 524, we have Matty D. This is the player I am dubbing the Architect. All you have to do is watch his channel and you'll understand why. Okay, guys, the format is very simple. Together, we have close to 20 years of game experience. The idea here is to discuss and explore some of the hot topics centered around the game. To the viewers, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many as possible. We can also table some of them for another show. All right. Let me run down the list of topics. Kind of prepared about 7 topics. The first one, and it's going to include that Warplane Research Center, is C40. The second topic is going to be about mergers. Third topic, we'll discuss mid-range. Fourth topic is melee hit points versus long-range hit points. Fifth topic is how to limit your spending to efficient items. Sixth topic is important 6 stars as it pertains to 1,000 or 300 fragments. And then 7, if time permits, we're going to talk about why you keep playing the game. So thanks, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Nikki, Lumbergh, good to have you guys. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start off with Lumbergh because the first topic is C40, and I think he's done quite a bit of research on this, and he's seen a lot. But let me preface this. C40 is, this game evolves. Everybody knows that from C38, eventually we're going to go to C40. We don't have definitive timelines as to when that's going to happen. But Lumbergh, why don't you weigh in about the C40?
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for hosting and getting us all together. It's probably no secret that C40 is on everyone's mind. I have heard people say C41, and that probably tells you that nobody really knows, right? So I think it's going to be C40 because, based on a similar game, War and Order, that's kind of the sequence that they followed. But, the games did digress quite a bit. And, the whole concept of C40 is T13 troops, and that could either be at 40 or 41. The timing seems to have been usually in a anniversary. So if you really think about kind of the progress of the game, people have been C38 for quite a while, and they've stopped their spending. So just from a viewpoint of losing the mega spenders, C40 has to come out soon. So that's kind of my quick thoughts on it. Is that we don't know if it's going to be C40 or 41, but it's imminent, it feels like, just because, the content and the spending needs to continue.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, most of the players that Titan equipment was released not too long ago, and for those whales that have been buying every single pack, they are almost at the point where they're completely maxed out. So the only thing left for big players to spend on is going to be the island. And that's few and far between.
Yeah, and the island is kind of a big spend. I mean, you can go forever on spending on that, but you're absolutely right. So they've got to have a different avenue for people to, well, at least for the spenders to kind of expand out. Does anybody in their nation have cities that are ready to go straight to C40 as soon as they hit?
We have one that may be close.
I think we've got maybe 1 or 2 that.
Yeah, I think Lead God would be as well. Lead God and Zombie League would be. They're probably just buying rain just to be on the safe side.
Lumbergh, anybody in your nation?
I think there's probably two that might be close, but we're suffering from a lot of the big spenders just getting tired of spending or the game in general. This is a long game. So, they're not as motivated to kind of save up to get to C40 in one day. So a lot of them have kind of, stopped spending, and they're wanting more quality of game and quality of mergers. So there has been a little bit of a, shift. So, and many people aren't excited about it, right? C40 just means more spending and more differential between, the strong and the weak.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a C38 myself, a relatively fresh C38, and the thought of C40 just really scares my bank account, to be honest with you. I don't want it to actually happen. I think it's going to significantly increase the gap between the non-spenders and the big spenders even more than it already is. Most games, the big spenders might be 25% stronger than, the non-spenders. This game, it's like 2,000%. It's already ridiculously huge.
Yeah, I think it will definitely increase the gap. But to be honest with you, I mean the big spenders have always been ahead. I mean, whether it's by 100% or 200%, it's not like that C34 was going up against the big spenders anyway. So you just kind of have to game plan for a bigger city. And I think we've touched on it before, but like going to C40 is going to make certain cities obsolete. So the rest of the nation has to catch up. So in that respect, there's going to be a gap. But for the most part, I think everything will still, the gameplay will change somewhat, but you're still going to have the same kind of competition that it was before, right? The big spinners were always killing you anyways. So I'm afraid of the gap, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
Well, now with the gap with the C38, if you have like a solo C38 hit, a well-organized alliance, they can actually combat that just with sheer, numbers. They may lose on points or something, but they can win the battle. At C40, that's going to drastically change, though.
That's true. Nikki, dude, how about your nation? Do you have any? I'm sure you have several guys ready to step up.
Like 3 or 4 of them, not sure. I mean, the same as Lumbergh. Many of them are not spending or are getting tired of the whole spending a lot on every event,
Yeah.
because like the game progresses more when when the big spender reaches to the max point, right? But in the long run, it gets tiring.
Yeah, that's actually one of the topics that we might be able to touch on today. Like, and I have a big opinion about that because this game really is long. And like, if you don't pace yourself, if you don't set this game up the way that you like to play, and you're always trying to catch, that brass ring, you're really going to burn yourself out. So that's
Yep.
a topic. But one of the points on the topic that Lumbergh put together was the pros and cons for Camel on the C40 release. Can you talk about that, Lumbergh?
Sure. One of the things, and Brian in chat brings this up, and I think that's a good point, is that you can see a sense of urgency that Camel has in merging, right? So they took a little bit of a break right around the end of the year period. And then there's a really renewed sense of urgency in merging. So merging is what they've figured out will keep the players busy and interested, right? I mean, Matty's been very busy with his merger and, just planning it, coordinating it, and then bringing everything together, right? So you can kind of see the sense of urgency in merging. That tells me that, Camel is trying to, they're pretty smart, right? So they know that if they release, it's a very fine balance. If they release the C40 update too quickly, they're going to lose kind of all the meat for the people that will hit C40 to hit, right? So it's going to be no fun if you're just, And you can even see this in some of the videos too, right? The C40s kind of leave each other alone. They want to go after people that they can mass massacre. If that group of people are that is available for mass massacre widely quits because the game becomes too disjointed between the strong and the weak, the game's going to die. So I think they are trying to match it with kind of this urgency around giving the people what they want with mergers, being more agreeable to that. And you can see that it's a very fine line that Camel is trying to walk between how do I keep my biggest revenue makers still engaged in the game while, not ruining kind of all the foundation that keeps them interested. So that's a fine balance.
Yeah, so that kind of is a segue into something. Is I know we've got these mega spenders, but how many do we really have in the game that are at that level? And like 30 to 40, something like that. I would say that that's not even the top 10% of the revenue generated from the game, though, if you look at it holistically.
Yeah, I'd never thought about that, but I don't know. I think the top spenders do generate quite a bit, but to your point, I don't know the number, but it just seems significant because I've seen comparisons where one top spender could outspend the norm of two other globes. So it's
Yeah,
all
no,
kind of just
absolutely.
conjecture.
They may outspend 5 nations, but if there's 30 ridiculous spenders and there's 900 nations, it kind of shifts the balance to the rest of the players, not those massive whales. But Camel will never release those numbers.
I think to Lumbergh's point, though, that the game just constantly has to evolve. It can't. If you ever stop, it's not. You're gonna make people lose interest. So it's a balance to where you keep expanding the cities, but you don't have people jump off the back end. But to Matty's point, I'm kind of like him. I feel that I like to sit at a max level for a while. I like to just sit and just relax, and not have to worry about getting up to C39 and C40 right away again. So it has been. I can't remember. I don't know how long I've been a C38, but it's been nice to just not have to worry about upgrading all those other things. And I've heard a lot of speculation. I think Matty, you know some of the prereqs, or you have speculated as to what some of the prereqs are going to be.
Yeah, I think Lumbergh. I learned those from Lumbergh's
Right,
videos, so he may speak better to that as far as the comparison to WoW.
Well, I'll let you do it. It's been a while since I did that, and I forgot, to be honest.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna make me wing it. So, WoW kind of mimics this game. WoW is Camel's mythical fantasy type game, whereas this one's like a zombie apocalyptic type game. The things that we see happening there tend to roll over into this game, and it was released how long before us? Do you know, Lumbergh?
Yeah, they're about 2 years ahead, so they're on
Yeah,
their 6th year.
Yeah, so the things we can pretty much discern is that once C40 or C41 is released, the Academy will go up to level 40, and it will unlock an advanced research tree, which will take some uranium. We can also believe that the Academy will be a prerequisite to go to 39 or 40, as well as the hospital. And of course, the troops that go along with the city levels as well.
Yeah,
which
so
would be stormtroopers and cannons.
So we're not getting like inside information. This is essentially just taking the sister game that Camel makes, and a lot of their structure is exactly the same as AOO. So we're essentially just matching what they do or what they've done to what we're about to do. Sounds like it makes sense. You mentioned the technology tree that is going to be within the Academy. everybody's academy is like at level 30 right now, or at least or at the max. And if C40 comes out, I wonder if we're going to have to shoot that academy up all the way to level, 39 or 40 before we can start upgrading that.
Yeah,
So that's a big.
That's gonna be a definite if it mirrors what they did in WoW. So yeah, that's a lot of uranium just to get that guy up there.
That's heavy.
That's right. So, a big caveat is if the game follows the same path as the sister game. But, in that new academy, from that, the new research available actually costs uranium to research. So some of the skills are worth it, some of them aren't, but it does cost uranium to research. So then everybody has to kind of tackle that secondary decision making, that do I spend uranium on doing some of these skills that are worth it, or do I just get my city level higher up?
Yeah, and I think in Lumbergh's video, the consensus was with the WoW player base is the research is not worth the troops that you get from your upgraded city.
That's going to be big. So, all right, on C40, around the room, anybody want to take a guess when it's going to come out?
August.
I actually guessed this month or next. Yes.
The DSM guessed March. I'm guessing April.
Nikki?
I'm not trying to get banned.
Yeah, I know. Nobody's trying to get banned. I mean, we're just all speculating. I mean, nobody has inside information. Just talking about it.
Camel does not like us speculating. You know that?
Yeah, well, but my speculation in August is kind of based on that's right around the time that players will start to have Maria completely maxed. And the top spenders will have nothing to spend on.
Yeah, actually, I almost totally forgot about this. So I think that new building is going to tie in with the new C40. Does anybody Lumbergh or Matty or anyone, does it have any information about that building just from what we've extrapolated from, rumors?
I mean, everything we know is rumors at this point. There's rumors of data mines and stuff like that, but we've got no real confirmation from Camel at this point. So it's, anything we say could be completely wrong, and I don't want to guess based on that.
I was hoping that it was going to be a new troop type so that it can align with formations, but
yeah, but I mean, based on the rumors, they've got hit points and defense, so that would lead us to and attack, so that would lead us to believe that it's an attackable and troop that's able to be in battle.
which the other thing that I thought it was, and I'm if we're following the WoW game, then I think we've pointed out that it's not likely, but and I'm glad is that there might be a new resource that has to be mined, and that warship or warplane building is the vehicle that we would use to mine it. But it almost sounds as though there won't be a new resource, and I don't know. I'm just speculating. There won't be a new resource in this. So that means it's either a new troop type or a supplement to a scout, or it's something that we can use in an event or any game or something.
Yeah, I mean, based on the information we have, it seems to be a troop type if all the rumors were true. There's a couple rumors saying, it's a moon mining base, this, that, and the other. But if this game is really the sister game to WoW, we're not going to see a new resource type, and uranium will actually be, the resource for the foreseeable future.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think we covered C40. We can kind of move on to the next topic, but does anybody else want to add anything about the C40 that's going to be released, or we believe will be released? Good. Okay. All right. Topic number 2 that we came up with is mergers. And again, there's another topic that can easily raise the eyebrows of Camel to say, what are you guys talking about? But some of the things that we were really asking or thinking about is, can you influence a decision and timing of a merger? And, Camel's almost, is going to say no because they have to, because that I'm assuming that wouldn't be fair. But have any of you guys ever seen an instance where you feel that that was not the case?
I can say with certainty that VIPs can have an influence on a merger. To what degree, don't really want to get into that, but I will say with 581, they got merged very early compared to the other nations in the 500s, just due to their, they have 3 mega whales if you want to get down to it. 527, we just got a merger, and we had a little bit of influence on ours as well.
Okay. So, and it's just back and forth correspondence with VIPs, which, may or may not have an influence.
Yeah, and everybody's going to message their VIP and request a merger. I mean, that is a very common thing to do. Just because you have VIPs, don't think that you're going to be able to force a merger. It's, if you get all your VIPs together, you might be able to influence that a little bit more. Or if you have like just a mass congregation of mega whales like they have in 581, that definitely has some weight to throw around.
I mean, every time that I've talked to anyone that's associated with Camel, they've stuck to the same story, which, I believe in, that, it's about activity, it's about spend, it's about logins, it's about unique characters within a world. So, and it's also about who you can match up with or who you can actually merge with, because they have to be similar. If you have 2 nations or 3 nations that are dissimilar, then you run the risk of one nation just totally squashing the other. So a lot of things have to match up, and I think I think because of all those factors, everybody reads into it and they kind of speculate that, oh well, that was a VIP thing. So we're not really saying it's all VIPs. There's a lot of factors that go into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you look at historical mergers, and I've tried to kind of dig into some, I mean, it's 50-50. Half of them are going to be reasonable, and the other half are just going to erupt in civil war because you've got too many egos there.
Every merger that I've heard of recently, though, it's almost as though every nation or every world learns from other worlds, to where it's like, look, we're stuck with each other. We can have a civil war if you want, but every time I've ever seen a merge recently, it's always gone really smooth. So I think people are really
there's at least 2 this round that have not been smooth. It's actually very comical.
Tell me the nation, because I want to jump over there and take a look.
I'd have to go look them up. Somebody brought it up to my attention yesterday. I have to get back to you on that one. Let me find it.
Okay. We had another tip or another point. First time merger worlds tips and advice. We've all been through at least 2 mergers, I'm guessing, at least one. What's some of the advice that you would give to new nations when they're right about to merge?
Oh man, you got to get everybody in the same room. The
Yeah.
leaders of the nation. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
I think, and this is coming from me being in other like nations like 357 and 320. Don't rush into, making an alliance with another alliance with another nation. As much as, even if you do talk to each other and think that, game wise, you actually play the same way 6 months down the track, it might not be the same. So I think it's better if you go into the merge thinking that you're three nations going into a merge, and then 3 months later, if everything is still going the way that you predicted it while you were talking towards the merge, then go for one big alliance or two or three. So
Yeah, it invariably one thing that happens is of the different worlds, there's got to be one person that kind of takes the lead, because if you have three worlds merging and 5 different leaders, you're still going to be going in a lot of different directions. So of those 3 worlds merging, having one person that's kind of the centerpiece that's going to guide it, I think is necessary. If everybody's not on the same page, you're going to have a lot of different philosophies trying to be better, but they're going about it in different ways, and it's going to make for like slow development. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, we just merged yesterday into 524, and as soon as we found out we were merging, the first thing I did was set up a Discord channel, and I got a translation bot. There are translation bots out there. I translated into 10 different languages. We've got almost 400 people across the 3 nations in that one Discord. And we kind of put a sorting hat on, and we just kind of sorted them into the different alliances, 1 through 5. And we just made it as organized as possible. We split up the land. We mapped it out with benefit buildings. I mean, we thought of everything, and it's a lot of people's hard work and effort that made this thing come together for us and be so great.
hey, Nikki, you were with 52 when they merged, right? You're on mute if you're okay.
Sorry, I was in the wrong Discord. I probably joined them 2 months after they had the merge.
How did that go? Because I know a lot of nations, when they see that they're going to merge with 52, they get excited because they're super powerful, but they also know that they're um, heavy-handed. So how did that go?
From what I remember, what was it, 87 and 68? 68 Top Alliance really wanted to go with EV1, and so did 87 Top Alliance. So the big leaders of those 2 nations really wanted to like get into 52 and EV1. So it was more of, okay, let's all get together, you know, top players here, second active alliance here. Then they created 2 other semi-active casual players. You can go to these 2 alliances, and then that's how it started. And then there was like the rules of, no farms with over BP, I
Yeah.
guess, like not too many troops. And if they fail that, then everybody started killing them. And then it's also started a lot of people revolting because nobody likes people killing their farms, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I know a lot of people get offended, but I definitely think that's one of the main criteria that has to happen, is that the nation has to set that standard. It depends on where you are on the scale of the worlds. Like the older worlds, where C38s are really prevalent. You you really have anything C30 and below has to just be a farm, and you might even speculate that like C32 and below are farms, because if you're not a C34 by after 4 years of playing, then there's not a lot of hope for you. And in you hear the talk all the time, it's like we need to grow, we need this to do that to grow, but after 4 years, I know people that don't spend at all, and they're about to hit C37. So I don't really buy it that much, but
Yeah, I mean, I can say in 527 when I was there, we had some non-spenders, and they had their 5 farms. They did what needed to be done, and they were C32 after 1 year. So, I mean, you either have to spend money or put in the effort to get there. It's one or the other. If you don't do both of them, you're a liability.
And that's
But
the
we also know that you can get all the structures to 37, 36, 37, 38. But the internals as to where your equipment is, your officers, your titans, which is basically the meat of your city, you still have to put some money into that. You can't just not be a free player for that.
yeah, that's one of the things that I'm really starting to see, not just in my world, but in a lot of worlds where we are now, or where a lot of nations are right now, is that there's that feeling of players that are like, well, we have the right to play or whatever. But to Maddie's point, if you're a player in any kind of team and you don't develop, you're a liability to that team. And, everybody says, yeah, I'm free to play whatever I want to. Well, they're free to kill you. So there's
That's absolutely right. I mean, and Nikki, she plays in the murder capital of the entire game, so she knows it better than anybody.
Yeah.
yeah.
They already
52
murdered
is
everybody.
ferocious.
When you look at how to clean up a world, you go to World 52 to see what they do.
Best dead world.
So, Lumbergh, I know you've done a lot of extensive research on mergers, and not just what we've been talking about here, but what kind of 2 cents do you have about mergers and any kind of advice?
Sure. I think, one of the questions that I get a lot is a lot of debate around, what do nations need to do to kind of hurry up the merger, right? And a lot of that could be true, all of the above, or none of them, right? So it's always going to be an unknown, the criteria that Camel uses. But some of the things that, we all just talked about, which is kind of nation rules, nation cleaning up your liability, actually serves the dual purpose of making you a better candidate. It does seem clear that, just based on many conversations that I've had with people, and, people share the information in private, right? So I can't share all of that, but it is clear that, Camel does try to keep the balance of the game in play. So they don't want to merge too many strong worlds together. And, there is certain criteria that they have to be meet. Invariably, however, aligned with everything is, revenue generation and spending of the nation. But, some of the things that I wanted to kind of mention that nations should do is some of those things, kill the dead weight in your nation, right? So you have to be at a certain BP level to be even matching with certain other nations. So if you're heavy on the BP, if you haven't cleaned up, if you haven't set up nation rules, it's high time that you do that, especially even it will harken the timing of the merger, and it'll help in the matching of the merger too. And then when you do get merged, it's going to make things a lot more easier. So killing the dead weight in the nation, and dead weight would be kind of some of the things that Matty, Nikki, all of you guys just mentioned, which is, the players that aren't contributing. That being said, I will say it is really important because, there's a fine line between, and a lot of the people in the older nations know this, that if you go into civil war, if cleaning your nation kind of involves having too many conflicts, you'll create this animosity that you'll never get beyond, meaning you don't care about the nation, you only care about your alliance. And that view is kind of, counterintuitive to world versus world events. So it's kind of like, carry a big stick. So I think the formula that works the best is communication. As simple as that sounds, it is communication. Having your strong players kind of aligned is really important, because if you have a dispute between your strong players, like your 2 C38s, nation kind of flagship players, that's going to be the end of the nation. And you can see that in some of the nations. It's entertaining when you fight them, but you can see really that the two big move makers, when they clash, that's kind of what forces things apart. So communication is really important. And even, translation is critical, like having people that can cross those cultures and that language barrier. We all know that, I know you guys have seen it, but you'll post something, somebody will say something in Korean and it will say, I love you, right? And it's like, what? That doesn't translate. You paste it into Google and it's like not even related, right? So translation is absolutely terrible. and that can cause wars. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
That can definitely cause wars. I've killed many of people over some mistranslation issues.
I
Yeah.
think the whole mistranslation is part of Camel's plan just to pump up more wars because the more civil wars there is, the more the player is going to spend. And then everybody is spending to survive, or to be able to play the civil war and play events. So I think it's just part of Camel's idea of the whole mistranslation. I don't think they're not going to fix it because it brings them money.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And
if
if
you
I
ask,
could, yeah.
sorry, if you ask Rusty or Glaren, they've uh, they've done translation from like an emoji to Korean, and some of the emojis actually translate to Korean in "I will kill you" or something like that. And they actually had to tell
Take 'em
their
out.
VIPs like what is happening with this. It's like this is an emoji, and it actually gets translated into like die or kill you. I'll have to check that with Garen, but yeah, that was what was happening with their nations before as well, and that started wars.
Does anybody know if, because I've heard that, Camel looks for translators. Do they take in those translators to work on the translating algorithm, or do they take them in to do like live translating as they read it?
So here's the way that it works is they are trying to translate it themselves because it saves money. Google charges them per character.
Oh,
So it's kind of a 50-50 mix between what's translated with Google and what they are translating, from my understanding.
yeah, I've seen languages in another language, a different language, where they would write out these huge texts, and you can use like a translation tool, and you'll figure out what it says. But then what the game translates, it's almost literally like a copy and paste from another post, and I'm like, what in the world is this? So
Yeah,
it's
there may be some
crazy.
bugs. But going back to the topic of, what should your world do? If I could go back and do it all over again and, start in a new nation, I would basically set the rules early on and say you can't have over higher than, T4 troops on farms, and you must be C30 by 1 year. And, give them a deadline. And that sounds harsh. I've never heard of any nation putting a deadline like that on a new world. But that's really what's needed, because those C30s after a year, anybody below that is really a liability. I mean, they're not going to grow up.
Yeah. But then you'll get those C30s that have T4 troops, but they have like 6 million.
Well, if they've got 6 million T4 troops, I don't care.
I know. I'm just kidding.
They can
but
do
we've
whatever
seen
they
it.
want.
They're actually probably good, decent Titan traps at that point.
I don't know that I've gone through one merge in an earlier nation, and the problem is always trying to explain what a farm is. Like to us, a farm is something. It's a city that you hit multiple times to get RSS from. But yeah, some players don't consider that as a farm. They still consider it as a playable city.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a slight point to it, because you can use your farms to kill monsters, and monsters arguably give better, resources and materials than actual farming. But that's a lot of work. Once you're into the game deep, you've got to go and do that on all your farms. I mean, it gets old quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would agree. Like, probably the biggest thing once the merge is going to happen is get all your world leaders, get them all on the same page, and get, nail down the philosophy that you guys are going to follow. Because if you have, two C38s that are different, and, they're going to take their own alliances with them, you're going to have civil war. So it's important to have that point. But here's one thing that especially in my world, what I'm seeing a lot of is, when our world came together, there was a lot of different accounts. And as people, after 4 years, after people leave, a lot of people start collecting accounts because, somebody leaves, they give them an account or whatever. So you've got players that have like 5 alt accounts and they all try to keep them up. And that's where I see some of our bleeders is that, if I've got, a C38 plus 4 C35s and, I'm not taking care of them, you're going to get killed. So one of the things that I always try to push for in our nation is, look, don't hoard those accounts. Just give them to somebody. Give them to somebody that can actually do something with it. Try to grow or do something. But over time, when you're playing this game so long, you get so worn out by trying to take care of so many different cities, and that's one of the things that, in my opinion, kind of pushes people away because it becomes a chore more than it is fun. So my advice is always, get rid of those people that have those hoard accounts and all those alt accounts because they're, eventually going to cost you.
Yeah, if
Especially in wars.
that person oversleeps one time, it's not just their main city; it's the other cities too that are feeding points. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
Because everybody oversleeps at least once.
All right, let's see what else was on the mergers. Anything else on mergers that we need to tackle? Was it tips and advice, worlds? Hey, Jason, thanks very much, Woody.
Oh, we do have a question. How long is the cleaning periods your nations before void?
Oh, that's going to vary, and you're going to get.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kitchy.
No. Yeah, it's gonna vary from nation to nation. Depends on how efficient.
Mine is 24/7. Yeah, 24/7. 24 hours, 7 days of the week, nonstop, all the time, in void, in frenzy, nonstop. If somebody chills drop, it's gone.
Again, murder capital of the game.
It's the best way to reduce your bleeders. If you have a lot of bleeders, your best way is to just get them at any time. Not give them a chance. You just go ahead and you just kill it because when let's say you're in a void and it's really neck and neck that the points are really close to each other, and then out of nowhere, what is this big gap? Why are we 2 billion gaps below? Oh, because your second alliance just did a defense, and oh no, they just gave so many points, and here you are back to square one. Now you gotta go back and get 3 billion points so you cannot lose. So that's why it's best to just get rid of them. Don't wait till the last minute because it'll be too much in the end. It'll just be too much.
Yeah, people don't realize how much it costs the top cities to make up the points of one mistake. It's actual money, and it makes us mad. I mean,
that's why it's very expensive. If you have bleeders and you have farmers, it gets super expensive for you to be able to pull a win because you have your farmers and your bleeders just giving points left and right. And then you're just spending money just to get the win. And it's very frustrating. It makes you just want to give up and just be a tyrant and destroy everybody, right? So that's why it's just best to just get it done and over with. Don't wait till the last minute.
Yeah, so I'll add my 2 cents in there because in our world is super fat. So we have a lot of dead weight that we, certain leaders kind of look out for that dead weight, and it's kind of a pain in our rear. But what you're going to run into is, when you do purges, the leaders that want to kill off the world, they're going to pick at least 2 to 3 days to purge for void. The ones that want to try to protect those farmers, they're going to just say, whatever, 24 hours or something. It's just something where that farm can afford to keep a 1-day shield or 2-day shield for the event and for the void. So my suggestion is if you're that camp that wants to kill off your world, make those purges more than 3 days so that you can force them to either get down in troops to where they can hide them all, or they're, just spending themselves out of the game because they can't afford to do shields. And, most nations now, farms should not be able to mine for gold because it's just a waste of gold.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing is if you're going to murder people, do it early. Don't wait a year, because the longer you wait, the more invested they are in the game and the more of a nuisance they're going to be. You got to nip it in the bud quick.
Yeah, so that's our problem right now. You see that lantern, that red light I've got? That's because we're almost a year and a half in our merge, still killing off people. So they are so entrenched that it's just a nonstop flag fest. It's
You
a big
you
pain.
can turn that off, right?
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying that to Maddie's point, you definitely want to do it early. You don't want these, and look, I get it. Everybody gets a right to play, but everybody gets a right to kill you too. So you don't want to let the people that don't contribute to stick around long enough to where
You're wasting money in events.
yeah,
Just to
exactly.
push for a win. Because
Well, it's not just
they're not spending, but even though they're not spending, they're free to play and whatever. The one that is spending is, the point of the game is to win events or to play. It's a war game, yada yada. But the players that spend and are pushing are the ones, that can make the rules and can decide what the nation will be. Not the player that is like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing, or I'm just gonna play the way I want to play. Well, the players that spend can play the way they want to play too. And I just think that it's like I said, it's very important to just crowd control the farmers and all that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, someone
but
once proposed the idea of a farmer cannon where we can, once a week, we can send one farmer to a world all on their own and they can just gather together in one big happy place.
yeah, I thought the island was that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
send them
thought
to the
that was the
island.
island for
There's an app for
exactly.
that. It's called Farmville. They can join
Yes,
Farmville.
no, but it's also because I think with me, it's like I started this game when the pandemic hit out, so you had time to actually, spend 24 hours in void or frenzy. But now that almost everything's back to normal, I don't want to spend 24 hours in the game. Like I want to spend, a bit in the game, get points, kill something, and go to the beach later on. It's not doable anymore. Which is why it's also it makes you really angry that some people just say, oh, like I just want to play the game the way I want to play. It's like, no, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
if
mean,
you have infinite time, I don't.
yeah, that's how you lose top players. I mean, there's one player that I found out I was talking about yesterday. His name was Tao, and he was an amazing player, a C38, but he was carrying his whole nation. He just gave up and quit because he got tired of carrying his nation.
Mm, that's
Yeah, a lot
sad.
of that happens.
Burnout.
It's better to lose your farmers than your C38s, I can
Mhm.
assure you.
Yeah, for
Because the
sure.
C30
So
is the one pushing the nation forward, depending the C38, because not all of them do that.
well, guys,
Well, yeah, it depends on the C38.
it's I can't believe it's already been almost an hour. So we had like 7 topics. We covered like 2. Let's cover one more, but I'll let you guys pick. We've got mid-range melee hit point versus long-range hit point. How to limit your spending to efficient items. 6-star skills as it pertains to 1,300 fragments. That's kind of interesting. And then the last one is why do you keep playing the game? That one, number 7, is probably a show in itself, so leave that one out. But you guys pick one more because I know we're running short on time. I want to be respectful of your time. Lumbergh,
I mean,
anyone?
yeah, I mean, I'll pick one if you guys don't want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so let's go with the 6 stars one.
Okay.
As far as skills, if I could instantly pick 6 triple S skills, it would be the 2 fleet size on Saki, the 2 fleet size on Morgan, and the triple S long range reduction on Aeon and Alexandria. Those to me are the 6 most important 6-star skills in the game.
All right. Now say that one again now for which officers?
So Morgan and Saki, they get a fleet size and a cross nation fleet size. I would triple S both of those for 4. And then on Aeon and Alexandria, the long range damage reduction is absolutely huge because 95% of the players are long range, or 99%, let's be honest, are long range, and damage reduction is huge in the calculations.
I'm sharing mine. Can you see my officers now?
I can.
Let's walk through, and no judging, guys. Come on. Don't pick an officer and we'll look at it.
Let's look at Aeon.
Okay.
All right, go to the 6-star.
Oh, wait. To remodel them, or you want to talking about these?
Go to hit the books or whatever you want to look at.
Oh, this.
Scroll down.
This app is.
Yeah, the app there, the Windows app is garbage. I'll agree.
Yeah, it's not letting me scroll. So,
I'm just going to add a little bit to Matty's comment, which I agree with. One thing to keep in mind is, which say you also want to cater how many elite order packs you're buying, how many fragments you're going to have, right? So Matty's probably at the top tier, and some of us other people will probably won't be able to pick a triple S. So you can just cater that down to like you'll say, wait, double S is the best. But I'll give a good example just on fleet size. So totally agree. If you are going to spend something, 1,000 books on to get a triple S fleet size is it. And if you really think about it, unless you're in a nation where you really need to kill people, you probably don't need a rally size, and you don't need other than early game, you don't need Morgan's breakthrough skill. So if you're not using Morgan's breakthrough skill, that means you're going to have his fragments to play around with and hopefully get those fleet triple S. Right. So that's probably one consideration, that you want to save those books for Saki, where you're going to use her to get your breakthrough to all the way to level 18. So you want to be mindful in who you use the books on. So Morgan, don't use the books on, especially if you're most likely going to unlock Morgan to 6-star way sooner than you're going to be Saki, and you're going to be tempted to use those books on Morgan. But save that 1,000 books for Saki when you do it, right? So the key thing in this game is you will be rewarded if you actually save enough for that long-term view. And to echo kind of Jack's point, this is a long game, and you don't need to be jumping into something like you unlocked Morgan 6-star. Wait until you get Saki. So that's kind of my tips on that. Is like figure out what that you're going to use those books for, how much you're going to spend, where you think you're going to be, and wait. I know it's hard. I can't do it myself. Like you have it. It's sitting there. It's a lot of strength, and you just get tempted.
Yeah, and back to the Morgan and Saki fleet size. So. And any 6-star skill in general, do not, under any circumstances, buy your first triple S skill. That is just reducing your rolls later.
Hang on a second. Now say that one more time, because I'm writing notes on that one. Do not buy.
Well, so every time you lock a skill, if you have no skills locked and you waste 1,000 books, I say waste, on your first triple S skill. Well, now you're locking that skill. You're effectively reducing your rolls by half. Save it for, your third or fourth skill. Or in Morgan and Saki's case, save it for your second fleet size skill. Roll your first one, buy the second one with books.
What is the strategy to, I mean, when you're trying to accumulate the fragments, I mean, you're obviously, remodeling over and over and over again. What do you do? What do you spend on remodeling for? Do you spend it on trying to hit that SS to SSS, or do you spend it on, like, say, for instance, if you can see my Saki here, I've got these three things, the three bottom ones I don't really care about. Do you spend it on remodeling all three of those so that you can try to accumulate your 1,000? Like, what's the strategy to get to 1,000 pieces?
I mean, honestly, it's just either buying packs or picking up stuff in the exchange store. But looking at your Saki, if I were to have your Saki, you've already spent all those fragments to open up all 6-star skills, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's almost 300 fragments? Is it 50 or 58? I can't remember.
I think it's 58.
Yeah, I think it's 58 per. So, I mean, you've almost spent 300 fragments. You're there. Spend another 300 and get, at least one triple S fleet size, and then buy the other one with 1,000 points. The other skills don't matter on them. I mean, healing speed means a little bit, but with your Saki right there, I would re-roll all 5 slots until I hit a triple S fleet size.
Even if I've got 2 that are at 27 and the rest of the 3 are at 1?
Man, I would advise people not to do what you did.
Yeah.
But, man, I don't know what to tell you there. That's a tough call, right? That is a very tough call because that is a lot of XP you put into those guys.
I think I'm the first person to get officer shamed.
Can you
No.
show your Morgan?
Morgan is exact opposite. See him?
Yes. So
Oh, you rolled early.
so when you what do you do with your Morgan fragments?
I haven't been buying Morgan lately, so nothing.
But you don't have to buy him. You can
No,
just get him
yeah.
on other things.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I mean, if I were to get Morgan fragments, I would just keep re-rolling these to try to get to. I don't really care about the 3 other ones. So I guess the opposite of what I did with Saki, I'm just going to try to re-roll these until I try to get SS.
Yeah, but you're really killing your odds by not having all slots unlocked. Like, you're in a very precarious situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, my only other option is to, with all of these officers, with Braveheart and Loreline, use a ton of fragments on them to accumulate 1,000 so that I can go back to like a Morgan and try to buy the triple S on them.
That's
You know what I mean?
probably what I would do.
Yeah.
Because
see
it's
this.
just how much you've spent.
See, so she's got like 85, so I can just gamble all day long. Her, and I get a lot more of her fragments than anybody else.
Yeah, Brave Star and Loreline seem to come in the most.
Yeah, so I should be able to build it. But 1,000 is a long ways away.
But fleet size, in my opinion, is king in this game. It serves so many purposes. If you've got 800 LRA, well, you increase the number of troops. All of those troops that you're bringing in get those 800% LRA, plus the
Yeah.
HP and the defense going with it.
Even people with 900 long range against somebody, I don't know, the thousands, like let's say 1080, if they have better Titans, they can still win the person that has more long range than them.
That's true.
Well, yeah, that's
Because I always, for me, I get beaten by those 900s. I'm like,
well,
why did I lose? And I'm like,
yeah,
oh my God.
Titans are a different story. I mean, if we're just talking about officers and skills, I mean, we could
But yeah,
take
yeah,
this conversation for years because there's so many variables, but just straight
yeah.
up officers and skills, I would say fleet size and long range damage reduction, which is only
Yeah.
available on Aeon and Alexandria.
But you could get that mid-range reduction too if you want to
But
survive the mid-rangers.
yeah, but 1% of the players are mid rangers.
That's
Right?
true.
I mean, normally it's the C35s and above, but you should really build around the majority, not
Long
that
range.
1%.
That's true. I mean, mid rangers get a lot of show because they get so many kills, but
Yeah.
and that actually is a topic that we can cover another day. Is what's the good mix in your alliance or your world in mid rangers? Because I don't. Does anybody see a trend for a lot of people going to mid rangers? I mean, it was pretty hot for a while, but I don't really see it happening now.
I feel like it'll happen once T13s come out, maybe.
Yeah, well, once those stormtroopers hit, mid range is gonna be crazy. Probably a lot of people switching, but I think the later worlds have a lot more mid rangers than the early worlds because the early worlds pretty much already locked in their stuff and it's too much of a pain in the butt to go
For
back and
sure.
change everything. But the later worlds for sure. I mean, in my line during our merge, when we looked at everybody on paper for our number one, we only had one mid ranger. So I asked for volunteers to switch because I would like to at least have 10.
And wow, that's
I mean, they're killers early on. I mean,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, they can steal the show. I mean, like 114 with Asahi, she or he. It's almost impossible to beat her with
Oh yeah,
in
she's a
like a void
beast.
because she just kills so much. And I mean, if she withdraws on even on bad fights, she'll still kill. So
yeah, that's a big mid-range thing, right? That they'll hit and then they'll retreat and they'll get a buttload of kills and barely lose anything. If they've got Alexandria Rescue and Aeon Shield Pop, they lose nothing.
yeah. All right, guys. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that we wanted to keep this at about an hour. What else on the 6-star? I mean, so essentially, when you're gambling, you want to build up those 1,000 or 300 fragments to purchase those. And, from what I've seen for the players that I've talked to, it really depends on your overall spend. Because if you're not spending a lot, it's going to take you forever to get 1,000 fragments. So I guess it really depends. If you're, a above average spender, then you can start shooting for those 1,000 fragments, constantly remodeling to get it and then purchase the skill that you want. But if you're not really a spender, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to wait for 1,000 fragments, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you're not a spender, just settle for the SS on key skills and that's fine. If you're even a moderate spender, don't waste your first set of books on your first skill on an officer. Be patient. This game, like you guys said, was the long game. It's short-term weakness for long-term strength and money saving.
Yep.
Yep. So Jack, someone in the in the YouTube live chat,
Mhm.
Ryan, he's asking, what are your thoughts on melee cities?
You mean like flex nuts?
Yeah, like flex nuts.
I don't know. I haven't done a lot of research on them. I know that if you can get all the Titan skills, they are pretty darn tough. But I can't really speak to melee.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to them. If you look at the damage on melee troops in general, it's just not good. Melee cities is a battle of attrition, and it's just their hit points outlasting the rest of your troops. Boss 2 and 581 is a huge melee city, bigger than Flex Nuts. If you watch some of his uranium mine battles, they go on for like a minute and a half sometimes. I mean, it's really just attrition. Is it good to have one melee player in your alliance for Elite Wars? Absolutely. But it is a very expensive build, and I would not suggest that for the average player. It's very expensive.
Because you've got to hit those Titan skills, right? I mean, that's really the only way you're going to pull it off.
Well, you've got to hit the Titan skills, plus you're gonna lose troops in every fight.
Question, which one is the most expensive, melee or mid-range?
Melee.
For sure?
For sure, because
For sure.
you've got to get those Titans maxed. That very first awakening skill, Empress Escort, you, you need that sucker maxed.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I'll
Because how
second that.
many shredders can you go in one recruit time compared to how many stormtroopers?
Well, the ratio is the same. I mean, if you don't have draft, it's 1,600 worth of troops no matter what you do. Stormtroopers are going to recruit a little bit faster just because they're a C-35 troop and shredders are C-37.
Mm-hmm.
I
Plus,
agree with Matty.
and plus with the troopers, you recruit more of them than recruiting shredders. I guess like the timing of recruitment.
No, you
Or
actually recruit shredders faster than you recruit troopers
oh,
because troopers you only get from one building, whereas shredders you can get them from two buildings.
that's true.
The ratios are the same though, right? One shredder is worth 10 stormtroopers.
I do have a suggestion for, like Matty brought up, I think he was referring to Big Boss's second city. It's really hard to play unless you're just a generous team player, like Flex Nuts. And I think that you definitely need a heavy amount of spending to be successful in melee. But those second cities that people get is not a bad idea to customize and make into that melee powerhouse, right? So the concept is, if you have a bunch of people with second cities, that's some playground. There are probably spenders that quit. They have pretty decent Titans. That's if any of them are C-37, those are good candidates to kind of make into that melee powerhouse as your second city.
Yeah, they're fantastic in Elite Wars. I mean, a full army with a good melee city can make or break a fight in Elite Wars.
They're painful in global conquest as well.
Yeah, global as well.
Yeah. There's there's one player that actually just sends all melee in one city and then all long range in their other city.
Oh.
And when they do hit, it's painful.
I didn't realize how expensive it was. I noticed that I can't remember who told me, but their fights like last forever.
Yeah, it's if you go into 581 and look at the elite or the uranium mines. I mean, if the big player hits boss's second city, it's a long fight.
All right, guys, we kind of went well over time. I appreciate everybody sticking and staying long. We didn't get to cover as much as we want to, but that just means we'll have some carryover for the next show. Hopefully, we can all get back together and plan something out soon. Maybe make this a regular schedule. I know that, all of us have always been kind of talking about doing podcasts and stuff. And I think, and this is everywhere, like especially with Woody. Woody's doing an awesome job. Oh, definitely always check his out. But as far as the AOO community is concerned, everything's kind of growing with the media, with podcasts and live streams, and I think it's good for the community. Even if we talk about topics that are somewhat controversial or something that Camel might frown upon, it's not like we're setting waves or tidal waves to clear out players. We're just speculating and taking a look at the game, because I mean, this is a super long game and it's super involved, right? So like everybody dedicates a lot of time and stuff, so having these kind of live streams really helps out. So everybody that's in the audience, I appreciate your time. If you have questions that you'd like to see covered, reach out to all of us. We can all be reached. Everybody has their link for their channel in the description. Please check everybody out. The content with these guys is amazing. So reach out to us. Let us know some of the things that you want to hear on podcasts, and or some people that you'd like to get together with on podcasts. That would be great. But outside of that, thanks everybody. Thanks Nikki. Thanks Kitchy. Thanks Lumbergh, and thank you Matty D. I'm going to go ahead and close the stream, and I will talk to everybody soon.
All right. Thank you, sir. You guys have a good night.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks
Jack.
everybody.
Thank you, Jack. Have a good night.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.